Arteta! What a strike! What a screamer!
Zola! And a fantastic goal! Arsenal back in it!
Here's Limpar, lines it up, finds the net.
And we are live. I hope this is Elliot Smith. You can block me on Twitter, Yankee Gunner, and you're watching the Arsenal Vision post-match podcast, pre-match podcast, live YouTube show. I am of the opinion that we are live, but I am not totally sure. So hopefully we are. I'm not hearing any audio, which is not good. But I'm going to introduce Scott. You can find him on Twitter at @O_that_crab. Hello, Scott.
Yeah, I can hear you. So I think we're doing good. I can see
Great.
us coming up on the video
Great.
screen when we're doing the YouTube. So I think we're all good.
I noticed that you were in a beautiful blue checked shirt, so I assume you were at work. You've got that white screen behind you. Hopefully no one does any dastardly things with that after the show, superimposing you onto bizarre places and things. But I am wearing my Smedium Adidas kit here, and this time,
It's looking good.
smart man. Smart man. No one on the back, but maybe, just maybe, we will do this on the back soon. How sexy is that? It's Nicholas Pepe, everybody. Nicholas Pepe, indeed. Scott, what do you think? What do you think?
I'm excited. I'm ready to. I was very much poo-pooing it. Not maybe not as much as Paul, but I mean I'm excited. I wasn't expecting it, and I think that'll look good on the back of a shirt.
You like it? Are you excited? I mean, do you feel like this is the right move for us, man? Come on, get excited. What's going on?
I am. I'm very excited. What do you want me to do? You want me to go run around? Taking my shirt off.
Yeah.
Spinning it around.
That's
I don't know if that'd be
exactly
a good
right.
look for me.
Okay, I need your opinion on this. Is this fake? This to me looks fake. There was a GIF going around of Pepe in the shirt, patting the badge. That badge right there. We love that. See, I can pat that badge because I am loyal to the badge. The players, who knows? But do you think that was fake? You've probably seen it going around at this point.
Yeah, I've definitely seen it going around. I don't know. I mean, maybe it could be real.
You think
he was supposed to be there yesterday doing the medical and everything like that? Maybe they're getting the full, getting everything ready to go. I don't know if it's fake or not. It's so hard these days. The deep fakes, you can, superimpose anything on anybody these days.
I don't know what you're talking about with deep fakes, and I've certainly not superimposed anything on anybody in a way that is untoward at all whatsoever. So, are you ready for the content du jour?
I'm ready.
This gave me the lols. This was going around on Reddit. Good evening, fellas. It's Raul, Emery, and Edu getting it done. I got to ask you, at this point, look, I may or may not have said some things about Raul that I may or may not regret. There's certainly no recordings that could be found to validate that statement. Do we?
Yeah, it's a good thing you don't record pretty much all of your thoughts.
No, not in written form on Twitter or for The Athletic or in a podcast or any of the various ways that my hot, terrible takes can be researched and thrown back in my face. So having said that, is it a good evening, fellas? How do you feel? I mean, do we owe Raul a little bit of credit here?
I think so. I mean, he seems to have really used those, contacts that, they've kind of come to a conclusion that this is a deal that's going to get done. They probably paid a little bit over the odds to get him, but that's what everybody keeps telling Arsenal to do is just pay the money and get the player in. I don't think that it's a massive overpay. Yeah, you probably a little bit more, but that was the cost that you needed to pay to be able to get it done. I think that it's something that, at least from an Arsenal's perspective, adds more value than it might have done to other teams, especially with the way that Arsenal have constructed their team. So I'm excited. I think it's fills a massive hole in the team that's been missing. So I'm excited for it.
Okay, well, let's do this. I'm going to pop up something called a box plot that you did for Pepe. And by the way, I got to go back just for a second. I don't know if everybody noticed this. I don't know what size screen you're watching on. Not that size matters. Size definitely matters, people. Down at the bottom there, I think that's Gazidis dead in the road, and I'm loving it. If you search Gazidis every once in a while, the Milan fans already don't like him, so I just thought I'd point that out. Okay, let's go back. This is a box plot. I know it's not super pretty to look at, but it's super informative. I've got the Pepe box plot up, so I'm going to explain the box plot, Scott, even though you probably should. I'm going to explain how you read it, then you can explain what we're seeing. So here's what they are. Those boxes represent the 25th to the 75th percentile. So the top line, if you're right at that top line of the box, you're in the 75th percentile for that stat. If you're at the bottom line, You're at the 25th percent. And if you're at the line that's in the box, that is right at the 50th percentile. That means you are bang average. The whiskers that extend from the box go down to the 5% range and up to the 95% range. So as you get up higher in the whisker, you're getting elite. If you are over the top of the end of the whisker, that means you're beyond the top 5% of players in that stat. So if I've said anything wrong, you can tell me, but this is from his last season at Lille. Why don't we walk through these stats one at a time real quick without totally boring everyone to sleep. His percentiles are listed numerically at the bottom, but what stands out for you in this box plot?
So the biggest thing, and the one that I'm most excited about, is probably his ability to create for teammates. So his key passes, XG assisted, and then also his shooting and his expected goals. So those are the ones that I think I'm most excited about. I think that's something that's been missing since Alexis left. The other part, dribbles are very important, especially for a wide player, something that's very missing in this team. So I think those are the main areas that I am very excited about. And if we kind of want to go through one by one, passing, he's a little bit better than average. When I looked at the expected passing model that I have, he's basically equaling what you would expect for a player who takes the similar kinds of passes he has. But I think the big thing is that he tries hard passes, so some of them aren't going to come off, but when they do come off, they're very valuable. You can see that in the number of key passes that he creates. Lille were not a crossing team. They had the second fewest attempted crosses in League One last year. So his actual number of crosses he attempted, I wouldn't expect it to be very high. It's right about an average for a wide attacker. He seems to complete them at a fine rate. And again, I don't expect that to be a big part of his game, and especially when you consider that he's more of an inverted winger. So he's not a right-footed player playing on the right side. He's a left-footed player. So his moves are, cutting inside onto his left foot. So, you're not going to get a ton of crosses that way. Or if they are, it's going to be not get down to the byline and cross it necessarily.
Okay.
So I'm not overly worried about that. I don't think that's something that Unai Emery is even going to ask of him to do too much. We know that that's the fullbacks who like to get in that area and cut it across.
We'll do some fun stuff with lineup projections a little later on in the show. We're also going to do a game called Over Under, and of course, really excitingly, if you'd never watched the show before, we don't have a lot of in the know connections or a lot of relationships, but we happen to have a strong relationship with Shkodran Mustafi, who has been on every live show and will appear again today, which is really exciting. I've put up something called a radar. Most people are probably familiar with this at this point. This radar, I have to admit, it looks different from the StatsBomb radar that I've seen in our Patreon Discord. So it may be a different mishmash of stats, but the radar, again, basically the dead center of the circle, so to speak, or the pentagon, or decagon, or whatever, the round thing, is the 0 percentile or 5, and then the outside is the 95th. So more surface
so this is a little
better.
bit different than the way StatsBomb. Yeah, so StatsBomb does it a little bit different. So mine is based purely on percentiles. Theirs is actually starting at the 95th percentile to the 5th, and then they do a linear scale there between the different stats.
Okay, so
and I did this mostly because for some of these stats there can be quite a big of outliers, and it can kind of make someone who is in the the 75th percentile look worse than they are based on just the bunching of the way the stats are.
Okay, this looks like a pretty good radar to me. What I like about it is the expected goals, the open play shots, the XG assisted, the open play key passes, and the dribbles. All the things that our forwards were not giving us last season, that's where he shows up well here. So if you brought up like a radar of wide forward contribution at Arsenal last season, it would probably be fallow or lacking in all of these except maybe XG assisted, where we showed up pretty well with Kolasinac and Iwobi. But by and large, would you say that what this radar represents is basically filling all the gaps in what we didn't get from wide spaces last season?
Yeah, I think it definitely does fill a lot of the spaces. So, you might see Iwobi, is able to pass better. I think he probably did a little bit more on the defensive action side. But I think a lot of that, too, is Pepe wasn't really asked to do that as much in Lille last season. He was one of their main attacking threats, so he was kind of stationed a little bit further forward, especially when they dropped back into their 4-4-2, shell. He wasn't really asked to do a ton. But if you looked at his previous seasons, he actually had more defensive actions. So I mean, I think it's possible that he can do it. I just don't know if he was asked to do it last season with, the burden of attacking he was given.
Okay, that's fair. Let's do this because we got a lot to get through. We're going to talk a little about the Angers game coming up. We'll go through the lineup there. Maybe some surprises with who went and who didn't go, and we can talk about that too. I do want to get to Ceballos, though, because obviously his arrival is really important. While it's only a loan, and we've only seen maybe 20 minutes of him in a preseason game, the only thing to do in this case, having seen very little of him, only seen him in preseason and only beloaning him, is to draw wild conclusions that we stick to and do not deviate from for the entire season. So let's do that now. We'll get down the Nicolas Pepe box plot, and we will pop up. First, let's do this. Let's pop up the Ceballos heat map. How about that? So these are the areas of the pitch where he popped up. This is for Real Madrid. Now, he was a different kind of player for the Spain U21s, but we're going to talk about him for Madrid. You see his actions not really central. He was either on the right side or the left side mostly, and sort of attacking half with a left side bias. So left-sided central midfielder for you?
Yes, I think that's pretty much where he's going to be played. He's an opposite of Pepe. So he's a left or a right-footed player who plays on the left-hand side versus Pepe. So he's also an inverted player as well. So I think that's going to be, where he plays. It's one of those things that, when players get it on the half turn, you already have your strong foot on the ball and you're ready to make it a move faster. So I think that'll be something that's nice to see for Arsenal, where, a lot of our players, like to take a touch or two before they play. So I think his ability to speed up play and do the one-touch, movements is going to be nice. I expect him to be a left-sided midfielder. That's, where he's primarily played. Okay.
Let's bring up the box plot for him then. And it's a good one. I think you can see right off the bat where he's good. He is an ultra elite passer, not particularly elite in the final third. Is that sort of how you see him?
Yeah, so I think he's going to be a deeper kind of lying playmaker. Again, it could be one of those things. It's a role-based thing where Madrid, don't necessarily need him as an attacking creative force. With the talent they have, he was given more of a support role. So I think again, you look at his under-21s with Spain. He was given more of an attacking role, and he did seem to do pretty good at that. It's one of those questions about what is the actual level of an under-21 tournament versus, a senior tournament. So I think it's something that's a tool in the toolbox, but one that we haven't quite seen unlocked at the senior level. I think that it's something that, I don't know if he's even going to be asked to do that so much at Arsenal. He might get some time at the 10 when we go, say away, and we want to have a little bit more of a defensive-minded person there who can still do some, creative stuff. But I expect him to play deeper at Arsenal. But yes, passing is definitely his number one skill. I know you talked with Matt on this, and StatsBomb really, really likes his ability to pass the ball. My model really likes it as well. Even just looking at raw completion percentage, he's basically at the top of what you'd expect from midfielders.
Yeah.
So that's his number one skill. His ability to progress the ball is also very good as well.
The thing for me is, I don't know that I see him playing the number 10, which some people have talked about. But when you look at our central midfield, I think there's one player that a lot of people have different opinions on in terms of whether they like him, hate him, or somewhere in between. Although weirdly, it rarely seems in between. And that's Granit Xhaka, right? Xhaka is a guy who has clear elite qualities at certain things. And those seem to be deep distribution, right? Final third entries, spraying those long crosses into the wingbacks. Those are important skills, but lacks the mobility, lacks the trick, very vulnerable to the press, not particularly press resistant, and not a great defender because he's not agile. He doesn't move his feet. He defends with his arms. He grabs on, right? He kicks out, and he doesn't necessarily have the best temperament. On the one hand, he looks like a captain candidate who's played 90 minutes in like every preseason game. On the other hand, I think he limits our ceiling. And Ceballos, to me, looks like the kind of guy because of his agility, his movement, his drive through the midfield, his ability to move the ball quicker. We talked on the regular podcast about tempo and the importance of tempo, and he is a tempo quickener. So in that respect, Xhaka, to me, seems like the guy who could potentially be most vulnerable. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. I think, one of the things, watching Arsenal is that when Xhaka wasn't in the team, Arsenal really struggled to be able to find, the connecting player. They probably asked Ozil to do it, and I don't know if Guendouzi was quite up to it. Torreira, can do it, but not nearly at the same level. So I think Ceballos is someone who can come in and basically do as, I don't know if he's going to be quite as good because, that is probably where Granit Xhaka is, fully elite at. His overall passing is just good, but his ability to actually progress the ball up the field is probably, up there in, the top, 2 to 3% in, Europe. So that's something that, Dani Ceballos is probably going to be the closest to what we are, going to, if we take him out. So I think that is going to be something that gives Arsenal an alternative, or also if they play together, it makes it so, you can't key on one player to be able to, kind of shut down Arsenal's progressing ability. So I think that's something that's nice. So I don't think it has to be, you can't play both. Although you're probably going to, sacrifice quite a bit on the defensive side if you play both. But if you do, play them both, or maybe if you play a midfield three and you have another guy to be able to help, control, defensively, then you really do make it so that there isn't somebody that, a defense can key on to shut down your attack.
Yeah, I think we buried the lead, though. Look, I think everything you're saying is right. We'll go into lineups in a minute. We're going to play a game called Over Under. We got a lot of stuff coming up, but we buried the lead. Yes, we talked about Pepe. We talked about Ceballos. The important news, the news that people care about, the news that could really make or break our season, is Mustafi going to Monaco. Is Mustafi going? Is our long national nightmare over as a fan base? Is Mustafi going to Monaco?
I think we should bring him in and ask him how he feels about it.
You think we should do that? It's certainly something we could. So. Should we bring him in? I mean, the thing I have with Mustafi is I want to show. Before we introduce him, he asked that we put up a picture of him in his favorite pose, pointing someone else. Offside. He's offside. I know I didn't run after the play, but he's offside. This is the quintessential Mustafi. This is the platonic ideal of Mustafi, looking a little bit scared, a little bit panicked, arm in the air, pointing to someone else to rescue him. We saw it again in the Emirates Cup. Look, let's put the booing aside. It's kind of ugly what's happening to him at the stadium, and I acknowledge that's gotten pretty ugly. But as far as the player himself, it feels like he's really cratered. I mean, at one point in time, this was a serviceable player. He doesn't look that way anymore, does he?
He was a German international. He was on their, teams that, won things.
Yeah. Well, should we have him on?
I think so.
All right. Well, it is now my great pleasure to introduce Shkodran Mustafi. Hello, Shkodran. Hello, yes. Back on top. Good to see you, Elliot. Again, good. Yes, assuming you boo me at stadium, right? No, I didn't boo you at the stadium. I wasn't at the stadium. Good. Don't love the boo. Were you saying boo earns? I was not saying boo earns. Were you saying Budran? I was not saying Budran either. Look, I'm sorry for the booing, but let's get down to brass tacks. Do you want to go to Monaco? Oh, I mean, I am flattered Monaco of course, everyone want German international, but hey, look, love London. Yeah, London good. Love Arsenal, especially love millions of pounds. Yeah, millions of pounds. Love that too. So, no, I stay for a long time. As you know, I've been working out in gym to get stronger. Oh, well, that's good, Mustafi. I'm glad to hear that. I mean, you say you're working out to get stronger. Is there anything in particular? Lots of shoulder press and agility. Oh, well, I mean, I get that's good. Is the shoulder press what? Like, so from set pieces, you can maybe defend in a more stalwart manner. No, it's to get arm rocket up faster when offside. To see, yes. With VAR coming in, do you feel that maybe you don't need to do that, to shoot the arm up, that the VAR camera can do this? No, it's very important. You draw attention. You shoot arm up. First thing they teach you in defense, shoot arm up. Okay, shooting the arm up is good, I guess. Any other defensive tactics that you can employ? I mean, you've got a young group of center backs behind Socrates. You've got Holding. You've got Chambers. You've got Mavropanos. What can you do to help them? Oh, well, other than shoot arm up, of course, go to ground quick. Go to ground. We train. Go to ground. We train. Go to ground. Okay, well, this is super encouraging. And really appreciate it. I'm hearing the clown horn, which means it's probably time to let you go. So no chance you rock up at Monaco, you don't think? look, I like Monaco. It's very nice to go for Grand Prix, yes. But no, back on top at Arsenal. Back on top. Want to be playing with Nicolas Pepe, yes, where I kick ball very long and he run after it and maybe pull hamstring because ball kicked too long. Okay, thanks, Showdown. We'll hopefully see you on a future show. Yeah? Yeah, okay. Back on top, Scott. That was Showdown.
Yeah, I was excited to hear him. This might be the last time.
You really think so, huh? He didn't seem too eager to go there, unfortunately.
I don't know. I mean, you really should have sold him on, there's, great scenery. He could park his yacht there. He gets all sorts of, positive benefits of, living in Monaco.
Yeah.
Less taxes, maybe.
Yeah, less taxes. He could easier to get onto a boat and sail away when people try coming for him. So, there's that.
That's
when the
true,
inevitable
yes.
zombie apocalypse comes. Let's do this. Let's take a little break from the show and do a little game. Or I'll give you dealer's choice. Do you want to do lineup options first or the little game first?
Let's go with the little game.
Little game. Okay. So we're going to play a little game called Over Under. Okay?
All right.
This should be fun. And you can play along on the chat. So if you're in the chat, I'll just type play along. Okay? Play along. Here we go. Simon Roberts says, this is bad. Simon, I couldn't agree with you more. Okay, so for over under, what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a number, and you're going to say whether for the season you think it'll be over or under, okay? We'll start with Aubameyang. Okay. League goals, 23.
I'm going to say over.
Over.
I think that he's going to be our main guy. I think that's going to be the way it works out. I really kind of think that Lacazette might have his minutes cut.
Okay, so you think over 23 league goals for Aubameyang. I'm going to agree with you.
I think it's possible that he could push. Yeah, I think he might be 25 plus.
The only thing that scares me, are you a little nervous at all about how much preseason football he's playing? I mean, he's gotten 82 minutes or beyond a couple games. He's going to Angers tonight when a lot of the other senior players aren't.
Yeah, I'm a little bit, but I do kind of hope that the Arsenal training staff know what they're doing. So they've kind of done the thing where it's kind of like they give everybody every other game. So he's kind of been on a he hasn't he plays, he has a week off, he plays, he has a week off kind of a thing. So or at least 5 or 6 days off. So I'm not overly worried about it yet. So if he plays today, maybe he doesn't play against Barcelona on the weekend. And, maybe he gets, like 10 days before we take on Newcastle.
Okay. I like that. All right. So, and by the way, good point from a lot of the listeners. I need to do the 0.5 thing, so the over-under can't be a push. So we'll say 23.5 and you're over. Is that fine?
Yeah, because I'm still thinking 25 plus is kind of my guess.
I'm on board with that. So no one's seeing the cliff coming for Aubameyang yet. We'll get to Pepe in a second. Let's go to Lacazette.
Yeah, there's a good point in there in the chat here. Didn't have to play in the AFCON this summer, so he got a full holiday going there. So that was kind of a nice bonus as well.
True, we're trying to undo that with our preseason work, but yeah. Okay, how about Lacazette? I'll say 16.5 league goals over under
for Lacazette.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think I'm going to take the under. I think he's probably going to be in the 12 to 15 range.
12 to 15.
Which is still, it's a decent, I think he's probably going to be closer to 2,000 minutes.
Okay. 2,000 minutes. Okay. So you're going to say under. Sorry, I'm getting some message here that our stream went a little bit bad. It might be my internet. So let's see if we're still on the air. It appears that we are
I'm seeing a couple, yeah.
Are people saying that we're off air?
No, I'm seeing it as well where I'm getting a... Okay, we're going. Let's just go.
Let's just keep going.
Power through.
Okay, we'll power through it. Hopefully the internet kicks back up. There, it looks like it's kicking back up, so that's good. Router looks good. Everything looks good. Internet stuff. That's your thing, Scott. You're supposed to know how that works. Okay, so I will say... For Lacazette, I could see Lacazette playing more of a Firmino-type role this season. Does that make sense? More of a supplier?
Sure.
Less of a goal scorer? Not that he's necessarily as good as that, but we'll see. So I'll say under as well. Let's move on to Pepe. I think this is the one everybody's really excited about. So Pepe will do goals and assists. So goals
Okay.
and assists, let's say goals, 11.5 league goals.
So he was third. So I still probably don't think he'll be the number one penalty taker at Arsenal. He had 13 last year in over 3,000 minutes. He'll probably step back a little bit in the league minutes. 11. It seems 11. You said 11 and a half.
I said 11.5. Yep.
Okay. I think it's a pretty good one. I think he might go under. I think he's probably 10 goals is probably a realistic expectation.
10 goals?
So I would say the under.
Okay.
Yeah, I think 10 goals probably.
Well, I would say
And I think that would be a great return from a guy who plays out wide. So I mean, especially considering everybody else that's going to be on the team. So we got. I mean, we're already kind of looking here. That's between Lacazette, Aubameyang, and him. We're already looking at over. Was that almost 50 goals? So.
Gosh, it's tough, right? Because I think he's capable of delivering more than that, but I don't know how he'll be used or how much he'll be used. It's hard to know. There's that desire to get Lacazette and Aubameyang together. Will there be games where Pepe doesn't start if we go 4-2? I'll say under, but let's do assists and let's set the assists at 9.5 assists in the league again.
Ooh, I mean, so assists are hard. So because you depend on the other players. I think that this is something that he might actually beat that. I think that he'll probably have more assists this season than he did last year, but less goals. I think that that's something that you could probably see, with the better teammates, the more attacking. I think he might do that. But I mean, again, it's tough. It's how many minutes is he going to get to play? So I think that he could do that. So I'm going to take the over.
All right, over sounds good to me too. I'm going to take the over on assists. How about this? Just real quick, let's do a couple of appearances things. Eddie Nketiah.
Okay.
6.5 Premier League appearances. Starts.
Appearances?
Starts.
Yeah. Starts. I'm going to take the under in the Premier League starts. I think he might get there appearances wise, but I don't know if he's going to get the starts. I think he's going to probably start more as a Europa League guy.
Okay, you know what? I'm just getting breaking news, that we are getting lineups. So let's talk lineups just real quick for the game. Let's see what we got here. Lineups. The lineups are in. Here we go. All right. Martinez in goal. Chambers, Mustafi, Medley, Monreal. So I guess that's Chambers at fullback. Guendouzi, Burton, Martinelli, John Jules, Nelson, and Nketiah. That sounds a lot like 4-3-3 to me on the bench. All the guys you'd expect, including Aubameyang. So it's a young team. I imagine in the Barcelona game, it'll be more of a first-team looking squad. What do you make of that? First of all, Chambers at fullback and 4-3-3.
I like that better than the possibility of a back five. So that's something positive. I don't love Chambers as a fullback. I just don't know if he has the physical abilities to be able to do it. But I guess that's what our backup is. It's either him or Carl Jenkinson. So I guess Chambers is fine there.
Excited to see Martinelli get a start. It's a young
that's always
team,
definitely nice.
That'll be fun. We haven't really seen enough of him to know exactly what we've got there, but I think he's been interesting.
Yeah, it's nice to see Eddie get a start, so I'm excited to see him getting a little bit more going. I've actually been quite impressed with him. So even if I don't think he's going to get a ton of league starts, I've been incredibly impressed with him, his cameos, or even the times where he's gotten more of the minutes with the youth group. So I think that I'm excited to see him get another run out. So, I think Arsenal have a good, mixed talent that they got to be able to go out. So it'll be nice to, fill hopefully some of the last, holes in the squad in the last week and a half of the, transfer window.
Yeah, it says some people saying 4-2-3-1. 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3. They're sort of the same thing, right? Depending on whether that 10 is playing more in midfield or playing more up as a support striker. So I guess we'll see. My guess is that it'd be Martinelli playing that role over John Jules. You think John Jules will be out wide?
I don't know. It might be flexible. You might be able to interchange and do all kinds of stuff there. So I'm not sure exactly. So we'll see when they actually line up.
Interestingly, good point. Mustafi, who was in the traveling team, to France, where Angers is in France, right? Are we in France?
Yeah, yes.
Is not in the match day squad. He's not on the bench. He's not in the team. No, what am I talking about? He's starting. Jesus.
Wait, it says he's starting.
He's starting. I'm an idiot. Forget it. Ignore me.
He's starting.
Anyway.
So.
I'm reading the chat stuff, and I'm trying to do too many things at once. Let's get back to our over-under game real quick, and then we'll do some lineup stuff, and then we'll say goodbye. So, by lineup stuff, I mean we're going to look at some projected lineups for next season. So, over-under in Kedia, we did. Let's get to Nelson. Over-under starts for Nelson. How about 4.5 Premier League starts?
I think that he could probably get that. I think he and Iwobi might split some time on the left. So I think he might get 6 to 8 starts. So I'm gonna be bullish on Nelson and say over.
Yeah, everybody's laughing at me, by the way, for momentarily having a brief bit of hope that Mustafi wasn't around. Look, the heart wants what the heart wants. I'm gonna say under. I think realistically, in the front three, the only way anyone's getting playing time is Europa League and League Cup or significant injuries. Because between Mkhitaryan, Iwobi, Pepe, Aubameyang, Lacazette, it's a murderer's row, man. I just don't think these kids are going to get in there. And I think based on what we saw last season, I don't know that you could say that Emery is too excited to throw those guys in the deep end. But there is one player who I think we have to talk about before we wrap up this segment who's been really, really exciting in preseason. That's Joe Willock. Willock is the guy who seems like he's ready to make the leap, right? He's like, he's added muscle. He looks big and developed. He's athletic. He can drive the ball forward. We talked about this on the podcast. Paz and I had a bit of a debate. I think we set it around 7 games. Let's say 6.5 Premier League starts for Willock. Where do you come in for that?
I mean, I think it's and so in the Premier League, I think it's probably going to be under just because we have so much depth at that spot, especially with Ceballos coming in. I wouldn't be surprised actually if he starts, the first couple of games of the season, just because he's been with the team the full preseason. Guendouzi was at the under 21 Euros. Torreira was at the Copa America. So both of those guys haven't had a full preseason. So I wouldn't be surprised if he actually does start right away. But you look at what Emery's done with Guendouzi. Like he literally came back on the plane and was right into the starting lineup. So I really do think that Emery still sees that Guendouzi's probably ahead of him in the pecking order. Which unsurprisingly, Guendouzi is a very good player and probably more talented right now. But I still think that he's probably going to get more Europa League stuff. And I think that's going to be really nice to be able to give some of our young players, those minutes. And I think that's something that we really missed out on last season, playing so many of the first team players there, where we didn't get a chance to kind of see what we had in, more meaningful games. So I think he'll probably get those starts. If he impresses there, he might be able to push it. But I think he's probably going to be down the pecking order. So I say under.
I'm going to say under as well. And with that, I think we can leave it there. Before we look at the lineups, I just want to ask you one question from the chat that it came up. There are rumors that the way we're getting this Pepe deal done, assuming we are in fact getting this Pepe deal done, is with the help of Jorge Mendes and maybe some potentially grubby back channel dealing, essentially not a bribe, but basically giving Mendes some money to help smooth this thing out. We know that Raul is very relationship driven, that he has relationships with these super agents from his time at Barcelona, and it wouldn't surprise me if from Nike too, by the way. So, I think this is an existential debate, right? Because there's always this question, if you could be Manchester City with all their money, would you want to be? This is a similar sort of, I think, an adjacent kind of debate. How do you feel about acquiring a player like Pepe if it means transacting business with people and in such a way that maybe is a little bit less than ethically upright?
Well, so I think that is the modern game. It may not make you feel good, but these are the guys that have the pull to be able to get things done. It's just kind of the way you look at almost all sports this way. It's you got to deal with the entourage to be able to kind of make the decisions and help move things along. And it's tough, but at the high end of the game. It's the money that you need to be able to pay off to be able to do things. It sucks, but it's one of the costs of doing business, I guess. So, we're not exactly a super ethically clean. We got Emirates on the front of our shirts. We got Emirates on the stadium. They're not exactly a
Rwanda
squeaky clean team.
sleeve.
Rwanda on the
Yeah,
sleeve.
I mean, there's some debatable stuff. No, you're right. Look, I think being a fan,
we've already kind of compromised on something, so it's how things get done.
Being a fan of big clubs in particular, but really modern big five European League football means accepting some things that are pretty unpalatable, from ownership to agents to players in some instances to sponsors. And I can totally understand anyone who says, I'm out, I can't support that stuff. But if you're going to be a supporter, you're sort of forced to make your peace with that stuff. I want to do one more over-under real quick. I don't know that we're going to get a central defender in. It's starting to look like maybe, given just the numbers that we have, we're going to stick with this. I think the Saliba signing is great. We're not going to do the Saliba stats because we're just running low on time and I want to get to the lineups. But last over-under, 51 goals last season we conceded. So 50.5 goals conceded this season, over-under.
I'm going to lead probably towards over. I think we're going to lean more into attacking, and so I'm going to be unoptimistic and say that we're going to probably concede more, score more.
You think we'll score more and concede more?
Yes.
Really?
I think we'll score more goals, but I think we'll also concede more as well.
More than 51. It's a lot.
It may not be. It's.
Arsenal, to be fair, given our defensive options, what can I say? All right, let's do this. Let's get to the lineups before we're out of time here, because we're going to run out of time. So I'm going to throw up some potential lineups. We can talk about them. I think one of them right off the bat, the 4-2-3-1. So this is one that I think we could see a lot, and the only question for me is the two in the middle and the one behind the striker. In this one, I've got Nacho, Socrates holding Bellerin, Ceballos and Torreira, Aubameyang, Ozil, Pepe, and Lacazette up front. I think the big question here is the pivot in the two behind the three, Ceballos and Torreira. Do you think, just gut instinct in a 4-2-3-1, if this is the way he wants to set up most commonly, do you expect it'll be Aubameyang on the wing, and do you suspect it to be a Ceballos Torreira pivot?
That's tough. Yeah, I mean, that's probably the way it's going to be. I imagine there's going to be lots of rotation. So there's a number of players for each spot. I think Aubameyang has actually looked very well starting on the right. He's actually been more of a, kind of the channels, kind of like what Theo Walcott used to do, where he played in the half space as a right forward. So not quite a right winger, not quite a central forward. So in that right half space. He's looked pretty good there, so I think Aubameyang can go there if needed. I actually wouldn't be surprised too much if we saw maybe even Lacazette drop into a 10 with Aubameyang in front.
So then who goes wide? Iwobi?
Yeah, you might move Iwobi out there. Pepe on the right. I think that might not be that's an option. I think I think there's a number of ways that you can kind of mix and match that front four.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can put Xhaka into this lineup. I think that's where you see some of that weakness in front of the defense. I think Ceballos and Torreira give you the agility, the movement, going both ways on the pitch. I think you could put Guendouzi into that.
I think so. I think if you put Xhaka in for Ceballos and Ceballos in for Ozil and made it more of a 4-3-3, that might work.
You lose some creative. I mean, the thing that worries me is what Ceballos delivers in the final third. I agree you could do that.
Exactly. So, I mean, I think if you're against one of the other big six teams and you really want to be able to control midfield, attack, when we're going to play a little bit more on the counter, we do have three really good attacking threats there, especially if we're on the counter. I think that could be really well. But then you also have players that, in Torreira and Ceballos that can be press resistant. Then you also have Xhaka there to be able to help you, be able to progress the ball in there. But you also have other pressure outlets. So I think that might work against some of the bigger teams. I think that could work.
Well, all right. I want to talk about this because
I like this one too that you got here, this 4-3-3.
Well, This is going to look weird to some people because it might be like, why is the front like that? This is something I feel like we've seen Emery do. Is he kind of plays with those two, almost like so it's a 4-3-3, but he lets Aubameyang and Lacazette kind of play centrally with a winger. So it's a tilted 4-3-3, and then sometimes Lacazette will go out wide and Aubameyang will play up front, and they're very fluid up front. The three, Torreira at the base, Guendouzi and Ceballos ahead of him. I like what that gives us in terms of possession, transition, pressing, delivery. Now, obviously, this leaves out Ozil. I think this is Ozil's battle now is where he gets into this squad, and I don't think he can get in this lineup. Do you think this is something we'll see, a formation that looks a little more like this?
I think it's definitely a possibility too, because this kind of reminds me a little bit about late Cristiano Ronaldo, Real Madrid, where they would have him nominally start from the left, but he was really a second striker up there. Lacazette isn't somebody who has to stay leading the line. He has the ability to drop deep, play a little bit between the lines. You got Pepe able to cut in. So I think that this gives you a good platform to be able to build from. So I could definitely see games like this. And I think this is where, we'd have that ability to mix and match. So, if we need to change things later in the game, Ozil can come in for one of the midfielders and give us a little bit more attacking. But it also, allows us to, give good balance for pressing. We can control the midfield in this one. So I'm not wedded necessarily to any particular formation. As long as, we start with a back four, I think most of our games, I'll be happy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's put up a different version of the 4-3-3. So I have that sort of called like an asymmetrical 4-3-3. This would be the more symmetrical option. I've thrown Willock into it just for the hell of it, just because I think it's kind of fun to play with into Guendouzi's position. That could be Ozil. That could be Xhaka. Xhaka could sit and Torreira could move into Willock's position. But here I have Iwobi left, Pepe right, and Aubameyang through the middle. This gives you a little more balance. You can attack down both flanks. There's access to both flanks with that midfield. This is the one that I'm sort of curious about. Do you think that Emery will make the choice to go Aubameyang or Lacazette more often this season and do stuff like this?
I think it's something that we'll be able to see. Maybe one of them will, if they don't start in the league, maybe they will get some, minutes in the Europa League. We have 4 competitions that we're going to be playing in, so there's going to be lots of minutes to go around. I hope to be able to see everybody be able to get minutes. I think that this really kind of gives good, balance. I like a way that Iwobi is able to do things. I almost sometimes would want to see this would almost work as a 4-1-4-1, where you kind of see Ceballos and Willock kind of pushing forward. So we still have 5 players being able to do it, kind of like a Manchester City, where we have 2 pressing 8s, and I think that you could see Ceballos and Willock really do that. So maybe we're against a bottom half team, and you didn't want to start Ozil for say, you could still really push things forward with this and really kind of pin people back. With 5 players, pressing the ball after we turn it over. But, we still have people that are comfortable on it, so we can break down, a set defense. And then we still have, Aubameyang and Pepe, who are very good off the ball. We have Iwobi and Pepe, who are very good dribblers, so we can break teams down that way. I think this gives us a number of different ways to break teams down. There might not be a ton of shots in that formation. I guess you're really looking at Iwobi kind of stepping up and taking a few more shots from there. So that might be the only kind of downside. But I think that you could create some really good chances with this team.
Yeah, kickoff approaching. We are going to obviously get out of here before that happens. The one thing I will say, look, I put Willock in here just for fun. I think more likely it would... I don't think Xhaka could play that Willock role as listed in this lineup. I think Torreira would slot into that and Xhaka would sit. And that would be against your lower half teams. And Xhaka would just collect off the center backs, be the deep distributor. He's not so much playing a defensive role as a quarterback role. I know some people hate that analogy, but there you go. I've done it, and people hate me and hate the analogy. Now everything in the world is right. Let's go to something that we saw occasionally last season, and that's the 4-4-2. I have not put the diamond in here. I think the interesting thing is if Pepe is available and he wants to get him on the pitch, I don't think the diamond has much of a role unless Pepe's playing one of the 2 at the top. But I did put a 4-4-2 in here, and in a true...
I guess you could kind of... Yeah, you can almost do 4-2-2-2, where you have 2 kind of nominal wide...
This could go either way, right? So this could be... This could be that. So this is the Ceballos Guendouzi pivot, Iwobi and Pepe on the wings, Aubameyang and Lacazette up top. This, to me, feels ripe for getting overrun going the other direction. I think playing the 4-4-2 like this... You've got a lot of risk behind you. So for me, I'm not sure how much of this I would want to see, just because I think it really puts a lot of pressure on the back four to defend effectively. But maybe the fullbacks don't buccaneer forward so much in this lineup, and you rely on Iwobi and Pepe to use their dribbling to break teams down and deliver to Aubameyang and Lacazette. What do you think about a lineup like this? And if it is this, do you think it'd be a Ceballos Guendouzi pivot in the middle? Maybe,
and I
maybe
think
Torreira?
this one, you kind of imagine that when Arsenal do attack, you almost imagine Nacho is the guy that's held more in reserve, so you still have three players back. Iwobi, it'll definitely probably end up being a little bit lopsided. You see Pepe go forward, Bellerin go up to support him. Iwobi maybe stays into more of the in between the lines kind of player. So we still are attacking with 3.5, 4 players. So it depends on if it's Bellerin that's bombing forward to join as the fourth attacker, or if maybe it's Iwobi, then Bellerin stays a little bit further reserved. I think you can make this work. But you can't. Yeah, I don't think you can have both. Fullbacks bombing forward in this. I think that really potentially leaves our backline overexposed.
Yeah. Okay. So let's do one more, and only because look, I have been on record that I would like to see the back three killed with fire, but I think we will see it at times. Having said that, if it had to look like this, I don't know. I would hate it. So we've got Nacho, Socrates, and Holding at the center back positions at the back. I've done this to obviously remove Mustafi from contention. The two in midfield, this is the 3-4-3 basically, Xhaka and Ceballos. And the way I've listed them is kind of like the Xhaka-Ramsey role when we played the 3-4-3 with Xhaka and Ramsey, and it worked. Xhaka sat a little more, and Ramsey went. So I could see Ceballos joining up in the attack. I have Lacazette playing almost like a 10 behind 2. So it's more like a 4-3-1-2, where Lacazette's playing false 9, Pepe and Aubameyang are playing off the shoulder of the last defender a little wider, Kolasinac and Bellerin bombing forward. I don't love the back three, but if it looked like this, you could talk me into watching it.
Yeah, and I think, again, a lot of this is probably more of a counterattacking look. I don't know if I necessarily like the way it would be from, controlling possession. I think that you get just the extra man in defense when, you're trying to control the possession doesn't work as well. So I think if you're doing it that way, trying to counterattack against a team, this could be very good. Kind of have Lacazette as your target man to, if you're under pressure, fire it up to him, look to see if he can lay it off, and then have Aubameyang and Pepe on the last man. And you could really, I think, spring some really nice counterattacks, because, that's one of the things when you watch Pepe and Lille last season, he was just so dynamic on the counterattack. And I imagine working with Aubameyang to do that, it would just be, breathtaking. And I think that Arsenal have the abilities to do that. And, I think, you get Kolasinac. He is just a natural kind of, wing back. And I, would rather see if he's going to play, actually even as a left winger is probably a better alternative to me over a fullback. So I don't hate this, all the way. I don't want to see it often. I guess, mix and match, Arsenal are up, 2 goals, maybe then switch to there to, kind of, lock things down a little bit, play more on the counter.
Here, you know what I look at when I see this? I see the same potential for problems that we saw with the back three, which is what connects the midfield to Lacazette, Pepe, and Aubameyang. And if Ceballos gets isolated and can't find the pocket of space between the thirds, and Lacazette, dropping too deep where he's disconnected from Aubameyang and Pepe, or he's too far forward and Ceballos can't connect with him, you put 2 men on Ceballos and you can absolutely choke off our buildup and make it tough to access the final third. And we saw that. When we played 3-4-3 last season with Torreira and Guendouzi, or Xhaka and Torreira, Xhaka and Guendouzi, the front three couldn't connect. It was often played with Ozil in the spot we have Lacazette listed here, and Ozil would either drop really deep and had no one ahead of him to give it to, or he would stay forward to try to connect, and no one could connect with him. So I think you lose that connectivity, and that's what would worry me. Scott, I think we should... you just got small again. I don't know why. I think we should get out of here. Any final thoughts on today or anything like that before we say goodbye?
There's more rumors that are going around. It's possible that Arsenal aren't done. It looks like Tierney's getting close, and I think that's something that'll be quite positive. It looks like there's possibility for center back loans. I'm not sure there's really any center back purchases out there. That market seems to be quite frozen right now.
I am losing you, Scott, so I think I'm going to have to cut you loose.
A good option.
Why don't you...
I'm ready to go.
Okay, I'm going to say goodbye to you, all right? Scott's on Twitter at _that_crab. Scott, always a pleasure, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay, good stuff. That's good timing because we're getting ready to say goodbye. Hey, look, a couple things. So there are rumors that we're still in for Zaha. No, that's not happening. Come on. Are we still going to go for Zaha? I think at that point you're looking at selling Lacazette and Aubameyang. Might be okay with the former, probably not with the latter. As Scott said, Tierney rumors still there. Might be looking at someone like Rugani at center back. So there's still things out there. We'll try to come back and do more of these shows and get the internet thing sorted and the Scott thing sorted. But the important thing is now is here all the stuff that the young people tell me I'm supposed to say. So you can subscribe. There's a link to subscribe in the description. You can support us on Patreon. Or not, your choice, but if you'd like to, there's a link to that below, and we've got lots of pods and graphics and stuff for all the new signings, which is kind of cool. Hit the bell thing. I think there's a bell. There should be a bell somewhere on your screen, which gives you reminders if we're posting videos, and we always put our regular podcasts up on YouTube as well, if this is your preferred place to listen to it. So we hope you enjoyed the game today, getting to the tail end of preseason with the real games around the corner and the window getting ready to close. Hopefully a Pepe announcement around the corner, and of course we'll have something out when he finally gets announced. So in the meantime, we hope you're doing well. We look forward to talking to you. My name's Elliot Smith. You can block me on Twitter at Yankee Gunner. Don't forget to support us on Patreon, subscribe on YouTube, and we will talk to you after Arsenal 10, Angiers 0.